All right, last time we're marching toward the end of 2 Kings, and it's not looking good. We left off with verse 37 of chapter 15, where it says, "In those days the Lord began to send against Judah." Scumbag number one and scumbag number two. Syria and Pekah, Remaliah, whatever. Anyway, the point is, God is sending those forces against them because, actually, back in just a few lines ago, they did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. So you continue to sin, and you say, I'm an Israelite. I'm the Lord's people. So, I, I'm perfect, right? I commit no wrong. There's nothing I do that's ever bad. I'm one of the Lord's people. And you think you can think that arrogantly. No, you can't. See, that's why the Lord is sending these forces against Judah. So, anybody who's religious today and thinks that America is still number one, America is this, America's the best, America, America, America. We were, but when we continue to abort millions and millions of babies, and we continue to allow evil to perpetuate, evil to grow, sin to grow, in these groves, we're planting sin in these groves, these high places. They're probably all over the place around this area, I tell you that. We allow that to continue, God can't bless us anymore. He won't. He's going to do exactly what it says here. In those days the Lord began to send against Judah. Same thing's going to happen to us. And it has happened to us. Look at all the problems we have. Look at all the drugs. You could put it, I can talk for hours. Don't need to. You know all about it. Don't need to state the obvious. Let's begin in prayer before we continue with chapter 16 of 2 Kings. Basically, to sum it all up, it's not looking good. We're approaching the end, basically, of this nation. All right. Let's begin in prayer, and then we'll continue from chapter 16. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time to study your word. Please teach us. Open our minds. Open our hearts. Reveal to us your truth, wisdom, and knowledge. And please have all of your will in all of our lives. In Jesus' name, Yeshua. Amen. Just had this ridiculous conversation on the internet. And so ridiculous. Just so nuts. People are going nuts. People really need to be taken. They don't take this Bible seriously. They just continue to cling to this worldly system and worldly thoughts, worldly ideas. Never consider the otherworldly, Never take a second to think that that could be a possibility, It's sad. But let's continue from chapter 16. Reign of Ahaz over Judah, verse 1. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. Confusing how that's written there. So, like David his father. David did make a mistake, but maybe it's just comparing him to David and saying that he didn't do anything. I'm sorry. Just can't get past these allergies. 3. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, yea, and made his son to pass through the fire. Okay. When you see that, you immediately know that this guy has nothing to do with David. Even though it's confusingly written there in the second verse there, it got me a little bit. When you get to verse 3 and you read that sentence, you know immediately this guy is utterly doomed. Okay. According to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel. So, as you know, what it's saying there, pass through the fire, that's a ritual associated with Molech. They cast their children into a furnace, and basically you could compare it today. I've said it before, that's in the same vein as abortion, though I think abortion is far more horrendous. I watched a movie about abortion recently, and it showed an abortion happening. Is actually made me want to throw up. Just horrible, horrible. And we're doing that. 60 million, 70 million now. But the second part, to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel. So these are ancient evils, ancient practices, satanic stuff. And the Lord cast out those nations from Israel, but Israel didn't completely take the land. Obviously, go back to Joshua, and you see those mistakes. They failed to completely wipe them out. And now here we are, a king over Judah, which is supposed to be the good area, good region, and they're participating in these ancient evils, these satanic sacrifices, the king himself. Horrible beyond imagination. And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. And I want to say that's indicative of, I can't think of the name of it, Druids, which I think is once again associated with ancient Satanism. Invasion of Judah by Syria and Israel, but I could be wrong about that. Verse 5. Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war. And they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. At that time Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria, and drave the Jews from Elath, and the Syrians came to Elath, and dwelt there unto this day. Ahaz seeks the assistance of Assyria. It's not funny. So this is what happens. Ahaz not only was doing that, he was sacrificing children to Molech. Now he's going to make an alliance with one of the most evil nations ever, basically, the Assyrians, which are the Ninevites that we'll encounter later. It's just a different name. I think historically that would be the Phoenicians. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong on that. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord, and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. The Assyrians take Damascus, verse 9. And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus, and took it, and carried the people of it captive to Kir, and slew Rezin. And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Urijah the priest the fashion of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof. And Urijah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Urijah the priest made it against King Ahaz. Came from Damascus. That's confusing how that's written. Maybe I'm missing a word there because of my allergies. I'm blind now. I don't know. Verse 12. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached to the altar and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings upon the altar. And he brought also the brazen altar which was before the Lord from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the altar. And King Ahaz commanded Urijah the priest, saying, Upon the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening meat offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice, and his meat offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering, and their drink offerings, and sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice, and the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by. Now, obviously, there must be something wrong with this. Now, unfortunately, I am not very good at paying attention to these offering ceremonies, you know. I've read it so many times, completely through. I really need to study this more in depth. So if you'd like to help me out and explain why this is wrong, well, obviously it's done by King Ahaz, and he's already done so many evil things. I think this was all improper worship. He's saying he's worshiping God when he's completely out of his mind, basically. It's typical Christianity today, I guess. 16. Thus did Urijah the priest, according to all that King Ahaz commanded. Oh, King Ahaz. What about God? You know, what about what God laid down in Leviticus? These are the procedures to worship right here. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. You know, it's very all laid out there in the first 5 books of the Bible. And is he doing that, or is he doing just what King Ahaz wants? You know. 17. And King Ahaz cut off the borders of the bases, and removed the laver from off them, and took down the sea from off the brazen oxen that were under it, and put it upon a pavement of stones. And the covert for the Sabbath that they had built in the house, and the king's entry without, turned he from the house of the Lord for the king of Assyria. So he goes through all this rigmarole or whatever, and he removes whatever's valuable left. This guy is one of the worst kings, I think. I think he is. Death of Ahaz, accession of Hezekiah. Thank God we made it to Hezekiah. 19. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah his son reigned in his stead. So Hezekiah, maybe Hezekiah witnessed some of this madness and turned away from it. Maybe he spent time with Urijah the priest, and maybe Urijah actually taught him something. And thankfully, Hezekiah is a good king. Chapter 17, for the most part. Chapter 17, reign of Hoshea over Israel. It's a pretty long chapter. Verse 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Okay. Israel becomes tributary to Assyria. Verse 3. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. Basically, that's kind of a simplistic way of saying he became his vassal, slave. Maybe slave is too harsh, but vassal would be, you give your, whatever the lead king is, or the main owner of the region, or maybe you could say landlord. I don't know. He's conquered my territory, so now I have to pay him rent. That's kind of, basically, yeah. Became his servant and gave him presents. Let's just stick with that. Israel, the 10 tribes carried away into Assyria. Verse 4. And the king of Assyria founded conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up, and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land, and went up to Samaria, and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria, and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah, and in Habor by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. Well, there's a reason why that's written there, the cities of the Medes. Think about that. If they're in the cities of the Medes, you fast forward all the way to, sorry, my allergies are just destroying my brain. All the way to, starts with an N. Eventually, so Babylon conquers Israel, conquers Judah. They take the land. Everybody gets taken away once Babylon comes on the scene. But Assyria is taking Israel, the 10 tribes, away. So Judah is still left, right? But then Babylon becomes the main superpower. Superpower. They take over everything. But then after that, you have the Medo-Persian Empire. And they're in the region of the Medes. So that shows you that they're in a very good position there, aren't they? Because if they don't deal with Babylon, maybe if they surrender to Babylon, and then the Medes just sit there and bide their time, they eventually take the head of gold, Babylon. So the Israelites, to be in that region of the Medes, that's very good. If you see somebody who's rising to the top, and you just, hold on to his leg or something, you'll be going up there with him. So just to think it through, not to confuse you or anything, but that's the timeline of events, right? You get the statue, you got gold, silver, brass, and then iron mixed with clay, right? Maybe I'm getting the materials mixed up. Basically, the main empires are Babylon, then Medo-Persia, then Greece, Alexander the Great, then you have Rome. So for them to be in exile with the Medes, and the Medes eventually come to power, that's in their favor. That could be a blessing in disguise, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, it took me so long to say it. The sins for which Israel was carried into captivity. Good. Let's sum it up. 7. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. That's right. Just a minute ago we had Ahaz throwing his kids in a furnace because he feared Molech. What an insane asylum that is. Okay. 8. And walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel and of the kings of Israel which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. Key there is, were not right against the Lord. Against the Lord. And things that were not right. You know, some things, I feel like we should just know that's not right for me to do that, you know? But then somebody makes you drunk, or somebody messes up your brain, your senses, puts you on drugs, might make you capable of doing, you know, perfect example is a school shooting. I don't feel like anybody could be capable of doing that. Think of the ramifications, how many people you're hurting, you know. But somebody puts you on psychotropic hallucinogens, then maybe somebody's capable of doing something like that. Then combine that with lots of psychological programming with television. What are they instructing us to do through some of these horrible television shows today? How bad is it getting? It's completely nuts. You wonder why all these things, you know, there it is. It's so terrible. If people would just stay in this Bible, they would know which things are right and what is wrong in the sight of God, you know. But they don't. But he just burns this Bible. Nobody reads this. 10. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree, and there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. For they served idols, whereof the Lord had said unto them, Ye shall not do this thing. Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. So we see the first-hand account with Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. Those are probably the big ones. But then you have all the minor prophets that witness this downfall. This is just a brief summary here at the end of 2 Kings. We're going to see this in detail through Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and then all the other minor prophets. And basically, that's the same message that they all repeat. Turn ye from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded you, your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Simple. As you turn toward Christ, you should naturally turn away from some sin, from your sin. Whatever your sin is, what's holding you back from the land. It's all there. See, it all makes sense. But you read it and think about it. Why am I not being blessed? I'm living in some kind of sin. I need to get out of it. Everybody should be asking that question. What does God want me to do today? How can I please my Heavenly Father? So many people don't ask that question. They just think, how can I please myself today? Well, they're just selfish. 14. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in the Lord their God. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them. And they should not do like them. That they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. Worshipped all the host of heaven. Astronomy, astrology, what's, I forget the name of it. But a lot of people worship that too. Stars. Zoroastrian, is that what it is? I don't know. 17. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. Sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord. Sold themselves. I feel like when you get completely drunk, when you get completely intoxicated, you lose all ability to control your body, control your mind. Is that what you're doing? You're selling yourselves, and you're opening your body and your mind to spirits. Why is booze called spirits? Why do you think? Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. Also Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord their God, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. Yeah, unfortunately, they get the influence of evil. See how evil just spreads from state to state, Thankfully, we do have a good king in Hezekiah that we get to hear about in chapter 18. I look forward to reading that tomorrow. But it's very sad. Things are breaking down. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Lord, and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did, they departed not from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. Absolutely. How many times did God warn them? So many times in those first 5 books that we went through. But they didn't listen. Do we listen today? See the same thing happening, same mistakes, history repeating itself. We don't learn from history. Don't learn from our mistakes. The king of Assyria repeoples the cities of Israel. Verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria, and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord set lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, The nations which thou hast removed, and placed in the cities of Samaria, know not the manner of the God of the land, Therefore he hath set lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the God of the land. So that's God sending these lions. 27. Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, Carry thither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the God of the land. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Lord. Howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places which the Samaritans had made, every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. And the men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima. And the Avites made Nimbaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, the gods of Sepharvaim. So they feared the Lord, and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared the Lord, and served their own gods after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence. Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not the Lord, neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law and commandments which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel. Notice that. 34. Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not the Lord, neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law and commandments which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel. I'm sorry to take too much time past. I try to stay around 30 minutes. But notice that. Do you think the people that are in Israel right now, do you think they're truly for the Lord or in the Lord? Do you think they follow the statutes? Do you think they fear the Lord? I'm just asking. 35. Or do you think there's a remnant out there, just out there, still scattered throughout the world? You know, I don't know. Just throwing that out there. 35. With whom the Lord had made a covenant, and charged them, saying, Ye shall not fear other gods, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But the Lord, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt with great power and a stretched out arm, him shall ye fear, and him shall ye worship, and to him shall ye do sacrifice. And the statutes and the ordinances and the law and the commandment which he wrote for you, ye shall observe to do forevermore. And ye shall not fear other gods. And the covenant that I have made with you ye shall not forget, neither shall ye fear other gods. But the Lord your God ye shall fear, and he shall deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies. Howbeit they did not hearken, but they did after their former manner. So these nations feared the Lord, and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children. As did their fathers, so do they unto this day. Isn't that interesting? That last line, 41. So these nations feared the Lord and served their graven images, their children and their children's children. So even though they serve these other gods, they still fear the Lord because they see all of this. Maybe I'm confusing that last verse. I'm sorry, these allergies are killing me. We'll continue from chapter 18. Maybe we'll think about that and sum that up a little better at the start of next video. So tomorrow we'll begin chapter 18, Hezekiah. That'll be good. Hezekiah is a great king. All right. 18 next time. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.